BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for the Farming Today podcast. I'm Caz Graham, and in this episode, don't be surprised by record-breaking temperatures and rainfall. They are the new normal, according to the Royal Meteorological Society. We ask what that means for farmers.
The number of times we see 5 degrees above average has doubled. The number of times we see 8 degrees above average have trebled. And the number of times we see 10 degrees above average has quadrupled. So it's those extreme ends that we're starting to see on a much more frequent basis than we ever used to.
We'll have more on that in a few minutes' time. But first, this current hot weather means that a lot of us have been tucking into strawberries and cream, bowls of fresh raspberries, and the abundance of cherries already ripening in orchards. And that's not just anecdotal. British Berry Growers, the organisation that represents 95% of, yes, British berry growers, say this summer is looking like a winner, both in fruit yields and sales to customers. Nick Marston is their CEO.
Well, so far it's gone really well, I have to say. We had a nice April and May. The overnight temperatures were cool, but the days were reasonably bright, and that's allowed crops to develop. So we got a really good quality crop, great eating berries, and good size. And actually good size also means good yield. So to date, if we look at strawberries, growers have actually picked 26% more than they had at this stage last year, which is £30 million of the strawberries, which, it's great news for growers. They won't stay that far in front for the whole season. The area of production is similar, but it does mean that it helps their cash flow. It's a big upfront investment, and it means growers have £30 million in their bank accounts, early in the season.
And what about the demand? Have retailers been able to shift that extra fruit?
Yeah, demand's been really strong. The great sunny weather right the way through June has helped massively. There was a bit of a blip over the Whit Bank holiday weekend when retailers always stock up well, and it rained for the whole weekend. So there was perhaps a little bit of a surplus for a couple of 3 days. But I think demand's been very good. And as I said, 26% higher than last year, which speaks volumes for the quality of the fruit, and also the consumers want to buy it.
Nick Marston from British Berry Growers. And we've got more on the UK soft fruit industry all through this week, from improving strawberry propagation in Kent to breeding better blueberries near Dundee. Well, the hot, dry weather we've been having may be benefiting berry farmers, but as we've reported on the programme over recent weeks, it's not good news for everyone. Heat waves and dry weather make life more complicated for dairy farmers. In the short term, cows tend to produce less milk during heat waves. In the longer term, there's less grass to conserve as silage for winter feeding. Sarah Bolt is Technical Knowledge Exchange Manager for the dairy consultant Kingshay. I asked her why milk production drops when the temperature rises.
To start with, when they're hot, their dry matter intake reduces quite dramatically, anywhere between sort of 8 to 12%. So they're eating less.
You mean the grass that they're eating when you say dry matter intake?
Yes, so they're actually eating less grass, less food. When it's hot, I don't know about you, but when I'm hot, I don't feel like eating either. And it's the same with cows. So firstly, they're not eating as much, and then their metabolism will increase to sort out their thermoregulation, exacerbating sort of that metabolic stress and actually further decreasing the milk production.
And can you quantify what the financial implications of reduced yield might be once the temperatures go over, say, 25 Celsius?
Well, there was a bit of work done back in, I think I want to say it was 2018 by a group of scientists, and they were looking at sort of current annual milk losses and looking at sort of projections forward as well as to, by the end of the century, where are we going to be? And they were estimating that at the moment in the southeast or in the south of the country, we're probably losing up to 40 kilograms, 40 litres of milk across the summer, across that lactation. And I think certainly even looking at where they're projecting where it might be by the sort of 2090s, and we could be looking for that to be sort of 170 kilos or even up to 320 kilos just due to those temperature changes. So we can really see the impact that could be having. And to actually put that into money, at a current milk price, which is obviously a really nice milk price of 43 pence a litre, we'd be looking at probably £350 a cow for that that lactation. So multiply that across, 250 cows, 250 times 350 pounds. We're talking big money.
I mean, heat waves also, they really affect grass growth, and that can affect how much silage a farmer's going to get from their fields. So in the longer term, they might not have enough winter feed for their cattle. What can be the consequences of that on producing milk and on farm costs?
So when soil temperatures get up to 20 degrees, grass growth actually stops. Forage stocks are low. It's been so dry in a lot of areas since February. So we're actually, first cut, second cuts even the volumes are down. So the thought of opening a clamp now is probably not high up a lot of farmers' lists. So I guess it's then a case of really looking at what are the alternatives. It could be feeding concentrate, and feeding grass is probably around about sort of 5 pence per litre for each litre of milk. If you looked at silage, opening a silage clamp, you're probably almost doubling that to around about 8.5 pence a litre. Concentrate feeds, we're probably looking at up to 12 pence per litre. So, over double the cost of grass.
You talk to a lot of dairy farmers. How worried are they about this?
It really depends on where they are in the country. We've got some farmers that are saying this is the best year ever. I can think of some that are sort of usual 50 inches of rainfall on heavy soils. Well, they've still got probably a decent amount of soil moisture, and actually their grass is growing really well and having a really good year of it, compared to others that are, this is just too dry for too long.
That's Sarah Bolt. Well, more frequent heat waves and extreme weather events are something that all farmers, not just dairy farmers, will need to adjust to. This morning, the Met Office and the Royal Meteorological Society are publishing their State of the UK Climate Report for 2025. Their latest assessment shows that temperature and rainfall extremes are becoming the norm, and that record-breaking weather, whether it's heat, rainfall or the lack of it, will become increasingly common in the future. Professor Liz Bentley is Chief Executive of the Royal Meteorological Society.
Our climate is very different from what it was 10 years ago. We're seeing increases in temperature, we're seeing increases in rainfall, and we're seeing more sunshine as well. So our climate has become wetter, warmer and sunnier over that time. But it's the extremes that we're really seeing a lot more of. So more record-breaking events. Our hottest years in the last 5 years happen in the UK. We saw 40 degrees in the UK, which I never thought I would see in my career as a meteorologist. We saw that a couple of years ago. And the extremes are happening much more frequently. We just seem to be breaking records on an almost weekly basis in the UK.
So record-breaking and real extreme weather, that is becoming the norm then?
That's right, absolutely, a new norm for us, and we know our climate's changing, and we know it will continue to change. So what we might class as normal now, we would have seen as extreme a few decades ago, and we'll actually see as quite temperate in a few decades' time.
I mean, can you be sure that it's not just a few decades of differing climatic patterns?
Yeah, absolutely certain. We have multiple records going back to the mid-1800s. Some of our records, the Central England temperature, goes back to the 1600s. So we have a long series, the longest actually in the world, the longest series of temperature records. So we can see that trend has been happening, but we know that it's accelerating. These last few decades, we're seeing an increase, a more significant increase in temperature. We've seen a significant increase in sea level rise. That's accelerating as well. Again, that's in the report. So yeah, things are actually, it's not a linear increase. It's not just happening slowly bit by bit. It's actually accelerating, certainly in the last few decades.
I mean, obviously, we report with a farming hat on, Liz. Extreme weather events like heat waves and extreme rainfall do cause serious problems for farmers, particularly for planning ahead. Are they just going to have to get used to having less predictable weather?
We can predict what's likely to happen in changes. We know that our temperatures will continue to warm. We know that it's going to become wetter, particularly in winter. And we've seen that in this last kind of 3 decades. So we've seen a 10% increase in the rainfall annually, but most of that now is coming in the winter months. So summers are becoming drier. So we're going to have to get used to this kind of topsy-turvy of too much rain and then too little rain. Temperatures can put real stress on some crops. We're in a heat wave at the moment, and again, it just puts another kind of stress on the crop growth. So a combination of too much or too little rainfall, extremes, particularly in heat, and I think wildfires as well is going to be another challenge. It's a growing risk for us here in the UK.
Are you able to predict how much more extreme? What are the high temperatures? How much hotter and wetter is it going to get?
So we know that the number of extreme rainfall days where we get 50 millimetres or more rainfall, and the ones that lead to severe flooding, so 200 millimetres of rainfall or more, those are increasing rapidly. Those are the extreme rainfall increasing significantly. Temperature-wise, the number of times we see 5 degrees above average has doubled. The number of times we see 8 degrees above average have trebled. And the number of times we see 10 degrees above average has quadrupled. So it's those extreme ends that we're starting to see on a much more frequent basis than we ever used to.
And that's Professor Liz Bentley, Chief Executive of the Royal Meteorological Society. Well, if this current heat wave has been having an impact on your farm, do let us know. We're really keen to understand how it's been affecting agriculture right across the country. Do get in touch. You can email us on farming.today@bbc.co.uk, and on X we're at BBC Farming Today. And that's all from us for this morning. I'm Caz Graham, the producer is Sarah Swadling, and the programme is a BBC Audio Bristol production.